Okay. Now, L. James Sullivan, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, why don't you get in the picture
Oh, no,
too?
no. I'm going to stay out here where I belong. Now, the coincidence begins with my landlord, Jeff Sullivan, telling me that his uncle was a co-designer of the AR-15, and I actually doubted it because all I'd ever heard of was Eugene Stoner. So I Googled it, and of course L. James Sullivan comes up, and so after talking with you on the phone a couple times and enjoying it immensely, Jeff put together this trip where I could meet you, and here we are. So,
Yeah, I'm glad you came.
I've had a blast. I mean, obviously not on video, but you just can't imagine all the neat secrets James has divulged to us here, and
We're both learning things from the other.
So when did you start with the AR-15 project? When did that begin?
Okay, that was 57 that I joined Armalite.
Okay.
And I started as a draftsman. I had been a tool designer in Boeing's, and that was what I went into after I got out of the Army. And so a year later I applied for work at Armalite. They had been featured in Time magazine. And,
Okay.
anyway, I managed to get the job.
Okay, and
And I applied as a draftsman.
as a draftsman, okay. And so you worked as a team with Eugene and a couple other people then?
Yeah, I worked for Gene, and there was another fellow there named Art Miller, who at the time that I joined had just gone over to Holland to a company called Artillery in Richtingen that was making Stoner's AR-10.
Okay, and that was in 7.62 by 51?
That was 7.62 by 51.
Okay.
One of the other people that had worked on it was a guy named John Peck, who had worked with Carbine Williams at Winchester just prior to World War II on the M1 carbine.
Okay.
And the first, in fact, the only work I did on the AR-10, because it was completed, was a request and changing the arrangement of the gas tube on the AR-10.
Right, from the side, correct?
From the side. I moved it up to the top, which had to change the way the key went in and the way you were able to get the cam pin in and out.
Sure.
Minor stuff that, anyway, they had tried it before and things had gone wrong. But principally, they couldn't get the cam pin in anymore.
Right.
So I had to figure out a way to do that.
Okay. Now you went from the toaster model where the charging handle was on top of the carry handle and
it wasn't on top of the carrying handle. It was between.
That's right.
It was in
That's
the
right.
opening.
Looked like a trigger in the
Yeah. Okay, now when I moved the gas tube up on top of the carrier, it had to pass through the cocking handle, the portion of the cocking handle that was pulling on the bolt carrier.
Sure.
Well, anyway, where it passed through, it heated up the cocking handle so hot you couldn't cock it anymore.
Okay.
So
probably problematic. Okay. So then you went to the design of the charging handle that we're all familiar with now. Then. Okay.
Yeah, I pulled it at the rear.
Okay.
But also I closed off that slot that was in the top of the receiver, so it made the gun stronger.
Okay.
The upper receiver stronger.
Okay. So the cam pin on the original design that was on the side was similar, or was that changed too to accommodate getting it in and out of the carrier?
Yeah, it was they actually had one that was a roller, but then they just made the cam pin with a round top on it, not the rectangular top that you see on it now.
Okay.
And they also had a similar, same diameter round roller that was on top of the carrier that prevented the carrier from rotating.
Okay.
So both the cam pin diameter top, okay, and the carrier roller
Right.
slid in the same width.
Okay. Right. Channel.
Channel in the carrier.
Okay. Okay. That was before my time.
But being a round top, when you tried to get the cam pin in or out, you had to clear the diameter of the round top.
Correct.
With a cut on a carrier key that would accept the relocation of the gas tube. Well, what happened was you were almost cutting into the inside of the
Right. Tube.
the
Key.
yeah. And anyway, I came up. This is no big deal, but it wasn't obvious at the time. The rectangular shape on the top, because you could rotate it to the narrower portion to slide
Drop
it in
it
and
in.
out, and then rotate it to the wider part for the to keep the cam pin from rotating.
Correct.
And the bolt from rotating.
We all take it for granted, but this was all
Yeah,
done
yeah.
back in what, 57-ish?
Well, the funny thing was that the reason they were impressed with that idea was the fact that they hadn't seen it. You
Yeah,
know,
right.
I mean, they had abandoned this thing simply because you couldn't get the cam pin in and out,
Right.
and it was close, but you couldn't. It wouldn't work.
Right.
Okay? And this allowed it to work. So, without formalizing the change, I shifted from the role of just a draftsman into a kind of minor engineer, I
Oh,
suppose.
cool. And you've been at it ever since?
Yeah. Everything I designed worked. Sometimes not the first try, but
Right, right. Well, I've seen some of your changes, and I'm truly impressed with the improvements that you've made.
Yeah.
I work in a niche market with the AR15s, and unfortunately can't utilize a lot of the improvements you made, but I appreciate the intelligence and design that's gone into them. So
yeah.
now, the first one that got designed was the AR10, and the AR15 was just minified from that, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
After the change was made on the AR-10, the people that owned Armalite, which happened to be Fairchild Airplane and Engine Company, they were sold on the idea at the time that the military was working on for a small caliber high velocity, and they wanted to do that, make a miniaturized version of the AR-10.
Sure.
So I
Troops
was
could carry
assigned-
more ammunition.
Yeah,
Sure,
right.
sure.
There were studies that were made of wartime casualties, and at what ranges is rifle fire really effective? Okay, the old idea of, in fact, our 30-06 cartridge was copied after the French. In some ways, copied after what the French had, and equal in power, okay, to the Lebel cartridge. Well, that was, the requirement was that it kill cavalry horses at 1,000 meters. Well, that's what the 30-06 was. We went through World War I and II with it. Well, the study that was made of at what range were casualties really done. Now, this does not include sniper fire. Okay?
Correct.
It's
Infantry
standard
troops.
infantry rifle. Less than 100 meters, not 1,000.
Sure.
So the 5.56 cartridge that was to grow there at Armalite out of the requirement that the company wanted us to make this small caliber, high velocity round. was set up for about 300 meters. And it was to be, okay, to take advantage of the high velocity, you wanted an unstable bullet, of course against the law, against military, the Hague Convention on you can't have a dum-dum bullet. You can't have
Hollow
a
points or
hollow
soft
point.
points, correct.
Yeah. So the wound effect has to take the energy out of the bullet. A bullet will pass right through a body without giving up much energy. If you don't do something, you have to. The idea is that it not go through the body. Okay. Well, in order to do that, you destabilize the bullet in the sense that it's still, you want it to be stable passing through air, but unstable passing through fluid. Well, water is 200 times denser than air. So that's quite a bit of leeway you've got. Okay. The thing that doesn't really work well is you get muzzle blast that upsets the bullet coming out if it's not overstabilized. So you need to overstabilize it. But what they discovered was in this study of small caliber, high velocity again, one of the things that they discovered was that bullets become more stable the further out they get, okay? Because their spin doesn't slow down as much as their forward velocity does. So not only were they designing cartridges to be more powerful than they needed by almost 10 to 1, at least on range was 10 to 1, they were overstabilizing it, okay? Now, we discovered that if you, and this was with some jerry cans that one of the bosses had, we just filled them with water and shot our early 22 calibers, which weren't our designs yet. It was just 222 Remington, okay, with a 55 grain bullet. But what we were experimenting with was twist, rifling twist.
Right.
Okay. At 1 in 14 turns for that particular 55 grain bullet, we were blowing up these jerry cans, okay, at point blank range. The bullet was still inside the jerry can, okay. It didn't pass through it. It just passed through the front wall, okay. 7.62 NATO passed right through, didn't blow up the can at all.
Right. Didn't impart its energy.
Now, what was happening was 5.56 gave a far more severe wound than the 7.62, which the ammunition weighed half as much. Okay. This got thrown away along with the change in powder. They also threw away this effect. Admittedly, the unstable twist, I'll call it, wasn't as accurate, and especially in the Arctic. Okay, it was really unstable up there. Okay. That's because you had a lot more muzzle flash in Arctic temperature, simply because the fuel and the gunpowder wasn't igniting correctly. It was still trying to get burning while it was coming out the muzzle. And boy, you really got some muzzle flash to deal with. Well, so we had an absolute killer round out to about 300 meters. And when they were first used over in Vietnam, almost any wound was fatal. And the reason was it's the severity of the wound so much well, it was, but the severity was in such a way that everybody bled to death. It didn't matter where they were hit. They couldn't stop the bleeding. I mean, they just bled to death. But also, the explosive effect of this thing, it would blow limbs off. I mean, it was a terrible killer. Yeah. And there was nothing that, none of these .30 caliber cartridges. You know, the whole world found itself, you know, a .30 caliber thing that they were satisfied with. Nobody had the same cartridge.
Right.
Anyway, it first went into production at Colt, the M16, the AR15 it was called, okay. In '59, I think, is when they started making the first few. Perhaps it was '60, but it wasn't until '65 that it really got into a major battle, and that was the Battle of Ia Drang Valley. And there were 3 regiments of hardened North Vietnamese troops that had actually thrown the French Foreign Legion out of Indochina. These were really battle-hardened troops. One American regiment ran into these people, and they defeated them, and they had AR-15s. Now, these were not yet M16s. The M16 is exactly like the AR-15, except it had different powder and it had different rifling twist. AR-15 killed everyone that was hit, 1,300 people.
Wow. That was semi-automatic, correct?
No, it was full auto.
Oh, they were full auto, okay.
What's
okay.
called the AR-15 today is semi-auto only. It's the civilian version.
Okay.
Initially, it was the full automatic Armalite weapon. By the way, this was the first time the AK-47 had ever been used, too.
Okay, so you were up against the 7.62 by 39,
Right.
a slow-moving, heavy, high-mass projectile. Yeah.
I'm kind of a fan of the AK-47. It's a superior weapon in many ways. But today, if you look at where it's at, where you could be at versus where you could be at with the M16, the M16 should have been way more, okay. The AR-15, M16 had good bones, and it worked flawlessly, but it was so close to not working, we didn't realize it. It was so close to not working that the change in powder killed it.
Mm-hmm. We find that in the shop all the time, just minor differences, a heavier bullet or a lighter bullet,
Right.
faster burning propellant or a slower burning propellant, and all of a sudden you've got a single shot again,
Yeah, right.
So I can certainly understand the difficulties there. So.
One of the other things that people that really don't realize is the civilian models. There's, I don't know how many manufacturers of ARs there are today, what they call ARs. They're semi-auto only for the civilian market, right? And they're reliable, okay? If you take one of those guns that can fire hundreds of rounds without a malfunction and put a full automatic lower on it, it won't fire 5 rounds.
Yeah.
It won't fire 5 rounds. It is that
close to the edge.
Yeah.
I've seen that in your videos. That's pretty impressive. It's something I wasn't aware of, but again, it's in a realm that I'm not allowed to dabble in. So, but
another thing that we did wrong or didn't realize was that gas-operated guns, you get gas port erosion and they speed up. And with the M16, the gas port is fairly close to the chamber. I mean, it's at midpoint. It's not like the M1 where the gas port was way out at the muzzle. And then when they changed to the M4 carbine, they moved the thing back another 5 inches closer to the chamber. That erodes so damn fast that especially if you're firing a hot schedule, that 1,000 rounds later the gun won't function. It could be functioning perfectly, flawlessly from the factory at 750, and 1,000 rounds later the thing won't work at all.
just from gas port erosion.
Just from gas port erosion.
Now on your model, you put a completely adjustable gas block on it, so
Right,
really,
you have to.
right, right.
You gotta, I mean, take a look at the BAR, you know. The US, for a while anyway, and some of this is almost just rumor, okay? You can never find it written anywhere. The US won't test a gas-operated gun that's got an adjustable gas system on it.
Really?
Well, they forgot all about the BAR.
Mm-hmm.
But their argument is that the American soldier can't learn how to adjust a gas system. Well, who was using the BARs?
Same people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take a break here. Hey, we're back with Jim, and one of the questions that I've had all along is you know, how you started. I mean, obviously the AR-10 was the beginning, and then you minified it down into the AR-15. But I mean, did the 223 Remington exist at that time, or did you start with something else?
It existed in part as I think it was called the 222 Remington. And the shoulder was further back. We moved the shoulder further forward. Then there was no 22 caliber military bullet. Stoner, working with Sierra, developed the 55 grain bullet. Bob Fremont and I developed the changes to the cartridge case and messed with the some available barrel twists. Excuse me. Jeez.
Okay, take a break. So you and your protege worked on the change of the cartridge case and chamber itself.
Right.
Okay.
Stoner didn't take part in that, nor did we take part in the bullet development. The first thing that it needed, there was a problem that it shared with the 220 Swift. If you had too thin a copper jacket on it, the thing would explode coming out of the muzzle. So I think it was 14 thousandths thick, and we had to go to 18. The 5.56 case started out as the 222 Remington. We moved the chamber, we moved the shoulder further forward. We lengthened the overall length of the brass.
Case.
Moved the shoulder forward. The first 5.56 bullet that Stoner and Sierra did was a straight cylinder. I mean, from the ogive, it was straight. There was no boat tail on it.
Okay.
So we put a boat tail on it. That's, I think Fremont and I did that because we were the ones that were talking to Remington because we were coordinating with the case development. Then, just to get off of that subject halfway, the N16, once it, the AR-15, once it had been purchased by the Air Force, was getting some doubling. The primer was too sensitive. So we had to go to a thicker material on the primer to stop the secondary firing.
And that was just from the inertia of the floating firing pin?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that didn't occur until the Stoner 63 program, because the ammunition was really getting into production with, not with Remington, but it was changing to Winchester. No, that's not right, because it was Remington that took care of the primer sensitivity. I'm getting my numbers overlapping there, but anyway.
Understandable. It's been a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it was a little while ago.
Yeah.
Anyway, we developed the case along with Remington, and it became the military 5.56. At the time, it was just called 223 Remington. So in the early 1960s, I guess it became 5.56. I'm not sure.
Okay, that's interesting. I never knew how that actually happened, and that pretty well clarifies it.
Well, a lot of it went back to the actual test that was going on just prior to our start on the gun. I forget the name of the government agency that was, it may have been Oro, but they had done the study on battlefield casualties. And there had been an earlier, I think between the two world wars, in the 1920s, there was the first realization that high velocity had a lot more to do with wound effect than they had imagined. I mean, and also when you factored in the fact that soldiers don't want to get shot any more than civilians want to, and it doesn't matter how accurate they are at 500 meters. In combat, they aren't accurate at 50 meters. Somebody once said that it ruins everybody. If you're being shot at, it ruins your bowling score.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, the business of high velocity, low mass is something that I've been sold on for decades, and my dad was sold on it before me for hunting. I mean, you know, like you say, you take a 150 grain projectile and you drill a hole through an animal, and that doesn't kill them. They may bleed to death eventually, but it's not a good hunting round. The amount of energy that the projectile possesses when it leaves your body is irrelevant. You know, you need to dump as much energy into the body as you can. You know, and
which means the bullet can't leave the body if you're going to get 100% of the energy.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And for the same reason that a light projectile loses energy quickly in air, it also loses energy quickly in the body. And that's something that some hunters just can't fathom. It's just, but
well, an unstable bullet is a legal means of getting rid of energy quick. Okay.
Correctly, yeah.
You can't use a hollow point. You can't use it's against the
Geneva Convention or
I think
Hague.
it's the Hague Convention.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. You know, rapidly expanding bullets illegal. I mean, you can use it on game, and it's very effective. But the fact that it loses stability when it strikes the body is apparently devastating. So, take a break here.